What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Tyler here from Ty Drives, bringing you another video on yet another brand new car, and this is, of course, the 2022 Volvo XC40 T5R design. So throughout this video, I'm going to take you around the vehicle, starting on the outside. We'll check out all the features that the exterior has to offer, then we'll pop the hood, see what kind of motor we are working with. By the way, there are two different powertrain options, a turbo 4 gasoline powered like we have here, and the all-electric version, and we'll save the all-electric Recharge XC40 for a separate video. So for this one, we're just going to focus on the gasoline powered T5. Then we're going to make our way into the interior. We'll start with the cargo area, pop the hatch, see what kind of room we're working with, then head on to the back seats and finally the front seats. But you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, because I'm going to strap this GoPro on my head. I'm going to take this XC40 for a test drive. Now before we get started, I'd like to give a huge thanks out to the guys at Valenti Volvo Cars in Watertown, Connecticut for providing the car for me to film. But starting off with the features of the exterior, we have full LED headlights, so the high beams, low beams, turn signals, daytime running lights, all LED powered. Really cool design for the daytime running lights and turn signals there. We also have headlight washers. See that little square shape below the headlamp itself. We have LED fog lamps as well up front, and parking sensors that run the span of the front bumper. A little bit of a different grille design for the R design, with some more blacked out elements for that trim level, kind of a more sporty oriented trim for the XC40 and for all Volvos. Pretty large hood, and the fact that it's pretty wide, as you can see, it spans pretty close to the fenders there. Our design specific wheels, 20 inches at that. Kind of cool machine face to the wheel, and then kind of a matte black on the inside of the spokes. 245/45 tires, two all the way around, and as you see, we have flat black moldings that go around the wheels and under the doors. Black roof for this car, so pretty cool. It kind of starts on the A-pillars, goes up and back towards the C-pillars. Had to count there. As you notice, more blacked out elements. We also have the panoramic sunroof up there and the shark fin antenna. See all the moldings around the window. The windows are all gloss black. Door handles have the smart key entry, so you just put your finger right on that little pad right there to lock the vehicle. Put your hand behind the handle, it'll unlock. And that goes for all four door handles, so that's pretty cool. Same setup back here for the wheels and tires. Really good looking pebble gray paint on this car. So it's kind of like, it's got a little bit of a brown into it, but it's mostly a gray color. And this car's got some pretty cool accessories too. I'll explain a couple of them while we're out back. Now this pretty much forward comes standard with the vehicle, but you could also get these pretty cool little spoiler extensions as an accessory. This car has it. As far as tail lamps go back here, mostly LED, so the brake lights and the tail lights are all LED back here. We have parking sensors, reflectors back here too, and all of our nameplates. We have the reversing camera and the trunk release down below. And as you can see right here, we have the T5 all-wheel drive Polestar with the Polestar engineered. So it'll be interesting to see how this car drives, since that little badge means you paid a little bit extra for a new tuning software. So it kind of wakens up the vehicle, it gives it a different tune. So that'll be interesting to drive. But what do you guys think of the outside of this vehicle? It looks pretty good to me, especially in this pebble gray paint. So as I touched on earlier, we do have the T5 powertrain, which entails a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4 motor, and it's good for 248 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. In a car like this, that is plenty of power. Of course, they do have what's called the Recharge XC40, which is a new trim level, makes it fully electric, but we're going to save that for a separate video. As you can see, the hood releases all the way over to the driver's side, and they highlight it with that little yellow release. Your batteries up here. And everything's pretty neat and tidy. You got a really cool color for the coolant too. So there's also lots of seals and sound deadening on the firewall. So that's a good thing too. So for the very small fee of $200, you can have a power operating tailgate, which, as you can see, this car has it. So I'm assuming all XC40s, or pretty much a good majority of them, will come optioned with that power tailgate. It's only an extra $200, totally worth it for me. But once the tailgate opens, you have a very nice wide opening to get larger things. You can also remove this little storage hider that's kind of belted in up top, and you could release that, take it out, and you get even more larger items in there if you'd like. We have the weather protection package, which entails the all-weather floor mats and rubber trunk liner. So that's pretty neat. Not a whole lot going on in here. We just have a couple of lights, some grocery bag hangers to either side, a couple of pockets, and some anchors to all four corners. Once we lift up the protection mat, you can see that there's some cargo dividers up here, so you can kind of prop up this bottom mat to a little section, so you can section off your cargo, and if you lift that floor up, you see you have a spare tire. Two buttons up here, one to close the trunk and lock the vehicle, and one to just close the trunk. Alright, let's move on to the rear seats here. I always thought the XC40 was a really kind of quirky looking car, and upon opening the rear door, it's got a really neat line. So if you're actually sitting in the back seats of one of these, this is a really sort of neat shape. Just one thing I'm pointing out here. They also, when they first came out, I don't know if they still offer it, but they used to offer a red carpeting, so all the carpeting in the vehicle will be this like reddish orange color. So just a really cool options that are available on this car. As far as materials go up here, they're pretty good. So we have this soft touch sort of leatherette material, and then kind of hard touch for the rest of the door, and carpeting on the inside, so that's pretty cool. You don't really see that too much. A couple of speakers on the door. You have the lock unlock button, the window, and the door release. Little cubbies right here to put little things to store. And the R design has these really nice suede and leather combination seats. So take a look at that. Pretty much where you're going to sit is suede, and then the outer is a very soft leather with contrast stitching. So you have the Isofix child seat points there too. Also have a armrest that you can fold down with a couple of cup holders. And you can also fold down these seats too, with a lever right next to the armrest. And the seats fold pretty much flat. Now pressing that button will also fold down the headrests, and there's also a button in the infotainment, which I'll show you, that will fold these both outer headrests down as well. So space back here is not too bad for a small crossover. I still have a couple of, I would say about an inch or two of legroom. I'm 5'10", and I adjusted this seat for a comfortable driving position for myself. And it's really not too bad back here. You kind of sit pretty low, which means you have a really good amount of headroom. You have air vents back here, heated seats as well, and two USB-C chargers for the rear. Not too big of a hump back here too, so if you had to fit a central passenger, as long as they're a little bit of a smaller person, you'll have no problem with doing that. Panoramic sunroof is pretty large for a vehicle of this class too. As you can see, it continues very nicely back here. And you also have LED illumination to either side for the both rear passengers. And now we can check out the front. Same materials on the front door as the rear door, except we have some pretty cool trim here. You can actually, it's a textured trim, so like an aluminum look to the trim there. We have Harman Kardon speakers on this car as well, which is pretty awesome. 2-person memory for the driver's seat. We have the window lockout, all of our regular window switches, power folding mirrors, and the lock unlock. Pretty large storage tray. That whole bottom is just storage in there, so that's pretty cool. Left of the dash, we have an air vent. We have our gauge dimmer and trunk release over there. You can see the release for the tilt telescoping steering wheel. We have the hood release over here and some pretty nice sporty styled pedals. Very nice seats for the R design. Same materials as in the back. Super soft leather too on the outside, and equally as soft suede. Also have thigh extenders, which is pretty awesome, and fully powered seats with 4-way lumbar. Alright, so here goes the key for the XC40. Just like all the other Volvo keys, you have the emblem up front, and to the sides you have all the buttons. So you have lock, unlock, trunk release, and on the other side the panic alarm. There's also this switch at the bottom where kind of slide the key upwards like so, and there's a physical key on the inside in case you need to use that for any reason. The push button start right behind the steering wheel. Now, some of the Volvos for 2022 came out with a brand new Google-based infotainment system. So this screen as well as this screen is now sort of a Google system. This one has not changed over yet. I don't know if they're going to do it in like a 2022 and a half model year. However, this XC40 for 22 does not have that new system, which is a good thing and maybe a bad thing in a couple of ways. And I'll get into that in just a minute. Steering wheel is a little bit different on the R design towards the bottom. Has a little bit of a sportier look to it. I really like the kind of squared off look to the airbag cover too. It's a really attractive looking steering wheel. All leather wrapped. You have stitching on the inside, and you also have your buttons here for the adaptive cruise control and sort of all your media controls on this side. So up and down for the volume for the radio, and then back and forth for skipping the different songs. Voice commands button up here, and sort of a different menus button for the screen and the gauge cluster. Behind the steering wheel we have a couple of stalks that are worth mentioning. We have the turn signals over here, front and rear fog lamps, and then all of your regular headlight controls with the automatic high beams on and off. And to the other side we can control our front and rear wipers with that one there. So full LCD display up here for our instrument cluster. We have the speedometer, tachometer, and fuel gauge down below. And again, we can press this button here to get a few different menus through. You can also skip to see navigation screen, so that kind of the outermost screens will get a little bit smaller, and the map will pop up and tell you where to go on your navigation. But other things we could cycle through is just our different trip informations. As you can see, you can configure the display a little bit more than in actually the new system. So that's kind of good that they left this screen in this car for now. The upper dash is nice, soft to the touch materials. You also have a branded Harman Kardon center channel speaker up there. We have a pretty large up and down screen surrounded by these two good looking air vents, kind of like an aviation inspired air vents to this car, which is really neat. We have built-in navigation for this vehicle, and we can expand the screen right there. Going back to home is just as simple as pressing this button right here. We have the radio. Tuning is right here. And all of your presets can show up right here once you program the vehicle. I have the phone screen and then various car information. This is kind of your fuel economy right now, when we have different preferences that we could set. You can swipe from the top and go to our settings. So there's a couple of different things I'd like to show you that you can adjust. We have all of the sound settings. So we actually have a real equalizer, and the balance is over here. We have navigation settings, media, and various other things like your just basic system settings. We can also swipe to either side to get more menus. So we can have traction control, the lane keeping assist, parking assist with the parking sensors, cross traffic alert, auto start stop, blind spot. We can turn all of those things on and off with just a touch of the button like that. We can bring up our cameras around the vehicle, and then here is the button that I showed you earlier. Well, I told you that I would show you earlier about the headrest folding. So you can press that button right there. In case the headrests are getting in your way in the rearview mirror, you can just fold them right down. So that's pretty cool. There's some various other things that you can turn on and off in case they're annoying you. And we have also the service wiper position and everything like that. Different sources for your audio up there, and various other things that you could click on and fool around with. You can get to your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto with this screen there too. Also housed in this screen is all of the climate controls. So to either side, we have the temperatures. We could sync them up, obviously, to dual zone climate control. We also have the heated seats and heated steering wheel. You could turn on with that control for the driver and that control for the passenger. And then here are the rest of your climate controls. So fan speed down below, where you want the air to come out, and sort of the defrosters up there, AC and recirculating. So very simple screen, no hidden menus or anything. You just kind of have to know to swipe back and forth and down like that. So pretty easy system here. And again, not the newest system that Volvo uses, but in a way, it's kind of a good thing. Taking a look down here, we have the hazards. We also give you some quick physical buttons for the defrosters. The volume knob down here is this very beautiful switch. We also have a drive mode selector, so we press that button. We have a couple of different modes. And once we go on our test drive route, we're going to put it into the Polestar engineered mode, which is the sportiest driving mode, and we'll see what kind of acceleration we can achieve. Once you put it into eco mode, it kind of gives you this eco, I guess, gauge instead of the tachometer, which is pretty cool. And then once you go into like comfort or the other modes, it'll go back to the tachometer. Couple of connections down here, 12 volt and 2 USBs. We also have the wireless charging pad, which is pretty awesome. 2 good sized cup holders, and we come down here to the shifter for the 8-speed automatic transmission. So a torque converter transmission, of course. And we have this nice little gear knob to put it into gear. So kind of one click in either direction gets you into a different gear. So we go one click, that's neutral. One click is drive. And if you go down one more, it'll put you into the manual mode. You can shift up or down to either side, which is pretty interesting. And also shift it into reverse. You can see we have the reversing cameras, very good quality. And we also have the guidance lines that turn as you turn the steering wheel. And we could also press the P for park. Electronic parking brake and the auto hold feature was nice. Got a pretty good looking center console here, which is nice and soft when you can rest your elbow. And once you pick that up, we have a pretty good amount of storage in there. Now this is one really neat element of the XC40. It's kind of like a little trash can. So you got little wrappers, some candies you're eating, you just stick it on in there, and once you're done, you just lift it right out and empty it out. If you don't want it in there at all, it could be just extra storage. So that is a pretty neat solution there. Glove box has a pretty decent amount of room up in sort of the bin style, and you also have a shelf up there where you could put your owner's manual. Frameless auto dimming and HomeLink mirror for the garage doors openers. SOS and Volvo on-call buttons there. We also have LED illumination up here. Full black headliner for the R design, and one single switch for both the sunshade and opening of the sunroof. So for a car this size, that's a really pretty big panoramic roof, and then you can also use the same button up here to tilt or to slide. So that's pretty neat. Two more things I wanted to point out while we're up here are the visors. And they have a mirror, and also both the two front passengers get a little grab handle up front, so that's pretty cool. But I think at this point you get a pretty good overview of all the features on the interior of the XC40. Let's get this out on the road and see how it drives. All right, 2022 Volvo XC40 R Design T5 with the Polestar Engineering tune to it. So what that is basically a factory tune, and you know, it really doesn't add much for horsepower or torque. It just kind of livens up the throttle response, makes it more peppy. So it's pretty neat option that they offer that from the factory. Throughout this test drive, I come down to this dead end here and see what the turning circle's like. Then we'll get it out onto a more main road, see what it's like at speeds of 40 and 50 miles an hour. It's kind of rush hour right now, so I hope we don't run into much traffic. So this being a short wheelbase car, it does a really good job with turning circles. Definitely on the smaller side of an SUV, so it'll be good in the cities too in that respect. But back to our drive. After we get it up on the sort of main road, we'll get it out onto a back road. We got a nice straightaway coming up. We'll put it in that Polestar Performance driving mode, and we'll see how fast we can get the car to accelerate. And then we'll also get it around some twisties. So there's a good back road around here too, that we can get a feel for the suspension. It's pretty bumpy and also pretty twisty, as I said. And so we'll get a good feel for the suspension and handling of this car as well. Very comfortable driving position for this car. You kind of sit upright, so the seat doesn't go down all that low, but that's good if you like sort of the high up driving position, and most people who buy these cars do like that. And I can say, once we have it at speeds, a little bit higher speeds, it's pretty quiet in here. Not a lot of noise from the tires, not a lot of wind noise, not a lot of noise from cars passing me, so it's a pretty quiet car. Now, steering feel in the comfort mode is not all that heavy. It's a very light feeling to the steering wheel. The seats are also pretty comfortable, a little bit on the firm side, but this is the R design, so. Once we get up to this light, we'll take a right onto this back road and we'll put it in the Polestar mode and test out the acceleration. All right. So we'll give this Mercedes some room here. I like to get it up to about 25, and we'll punch it and see what happens. wasn't expecting that. I guess I've driven quite a few XC40s before, none with the Polestar upgrade to it, but that shocked me. The difference between a non-Polestar upgraded car and the Polestar upgraded car is it's definitely noticeable. Even though they say it doesn't really bump up horsepower that much, it feels like it does, because it's just so much more responsive. This is actually pretty fun to drive, this little SUV. As you can see, it's holding the gears a little bit higher than what it would in comfort mode. I guess it sensed something that I didn't there. And the ride quality is not the most comfortable, but it's very solid. So going over bumps, you could kind of feel that it's just a pretty solid car. I'll put it back into comfort mode here. There is also a little bit of a difference with the steering weight between the Polestar mode and the comfort mode. Although the steering is light, it's got a good ratio to it. I'd like to point that out. Yeah, you could definitely feel the shorter wheelbase in the corners on this car, which is pretty fun. It's definitely a car that you could have some fun on the back roads. I could say that with confidence, especially with these little bit larger wheels. You have less sidewall, less flex in the tire, so it kind of grips the road pretty good. Pretty rough section of road there, but suspension is doing just fine with soaking it all up. It's kind of a fine difference between just a good ride and a comfortable ride. I would say this is a good ride versus a comfortable ride, meaning you know, a comfortable ride, you just kind of glide over the bumps. This one I would explain to you as a good ride. So you feel the bumps, but it's also a very solid feeling when you go over them. Now, this being the R design, has the more sporty seat, and they're pretty supportive too. I really like the range of motion for the lumbar, so you can go up, down, in and out with the lumbar too, and also the thigh extensions too. I almost forgot to put those on there. I really like those, and that helps out a lot. I don't know about you guys, but for me on the long trips, the thigh support actually helps out with comfort quite a bit. That guy wasn't using his turn signal. But yeah, just normal everyday driving, this is a great daily driver. As you can hear, I'm gonna shut up for a few seconds here. About 35 miles an hour, it's very quiet in here. As I said before, this car also does have a fully electric version, which we'll save that for a separate video. Once the 2022 electric XC40s come in, they call them the Recharge, we'll definitely get a video up on that car. So one last hill right here. We'll give it about half throttle acceleration and see what happens. This car makes some pretty cool turbo noises too. Alrighty, so pulling back into home base here, what are my wrap-up thoughts on the 22 XC40? So, 3 things I'd like to point out to you guys. One is the surprising acceleration with the Polestar upgrade there. Now that really shocked me at how much of a difference there is. Even though they don't really advertise a horsepower torque upgrade, it definitely feels faster. I believe it's about $1,100 option too, but I think it's pretty worth it. If you're a car enthusiast like I am, you're gonna appreciate it. Second thing is the amount of features in this car. So it's just got a really good amount of features. So blind spot, all the safety warnings, adaptive cruise control, all that good stuff. And the last thing is I really like the seats on this car. So just super smooth leather and the nice microfiber suede. You know, there's really nothing else that competes in this class that feels this unique. It's supposed to be a unique car, you know, this class, and maybe a Mini Cooper or something like that, like a Countryman. But then again, I think you still have a little bit more room in this car than Mini Countryman. Just a little bit more practical than that car. But anyways, to wrap it up, really great car, plenty of acceleration. And I hope you enjoyed the XC40 just as much as I have. And I also hope you stay with us here at Ty Drives for more videos just like this one.